What if you were an unreasonable wedding photographer and being that actually set you apart from all the other photographers out there? Hey, I'm Luke Cleland. I'm a wedding photographer based in Toronto, and I have been thinking a lot recently about being unreasonable. And this idea of being an unreasonable photographer. And I'll explain that in a minute, but first I want to thank Pic-Time for sponsoring this video. Pic-Time is a beautiful online gallery that I've used for years now. I started using it in 2020, and it is the perfect online gallery to share your work with your clients. And this is actually perfect timing because Pic-Time has been key in my own unreasonableness as a photographer, and we're gonna go into that through this video. So if you don't use them already, you are going to definitely want to check them out. You can get a free trial as well as another free month when you sign up if you use my link below. Okay, so when I say unreasonable, I don't mean like all of the horrible photography horror stories that you've heard about kind of being a jerk, like on the wedding day, being mean to vendors, all that stuff. Now, I'm not saying that type of unreasonableness. I'm talking about what if you were such a photographer? What if your service, you did it in such a way that it was almost unreasonable to go that far, to do that much for your client, to prepare and to think that much for every wedding that you shoot? Let me explain it this way. Let me tell you a little bit about the opposite of what I'm talking about. What is the opposite of unreasonable? Maybe some people would call it reasonable. Even though this story is not reasonable at all. Anyways, I was just shooting a wedding this last week with actually another photographer. This was a very high-end wedding. It was multiple days. It was crazy. And this couple, this family spent an unfathomable amount of money on this wedding. And I was shooting the details for one of the receptions in one of the rooms. And I was speaking to the cake designer who had spent, wait for it, 3 weeks on this cake. Okay, 3 weeks on this cake. And I was talking to her because she had a camera with her. She also had a videographer with her. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And so I was talking to her and she was telling me how photographers never send her photos. Let me say that again. Photographers never send her photos, which is totally and utterly bananas. Okay, my jaw just dropped to the floor. I was like, wait, what do you mean photographers never send you photos? She's like, yeah, I do the cakes and I never get the photos from the day of. Like, I wish I could post them on social media, but I never get them and they never want to send them to me. So like, what am I supposed to do? And I was completely dumbfounded by this. And that wasn't even the crazy part. The crazy part was she was like, after we spoke for a little bit, she's like, oh, let me follow you on Instagram. So I looked on her Instagram. Yes, she had 300,000 followers on Instagram. Photographers, what's happening out there? What? Let that just sit with you for a moment. This idea of unreasonableness has come from a book that I've been reading called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. And it kind of chronicles their rise. He ran a restaurant in New York City, and it kind of chronicles their rise from being quite an excellent restaurant to being like named the #1 restaurant in the world through this award, winning multiple Michelin stars. Like, this restaurant is crazy. And how it became kind of so well known, and it's a term that like Will coined himself, or came up with himself with his team, was being unreasonably hospitable. How can we do things that are like further than anyone else wants to go? How can we spend more attention to detail to our clients, our guests at their restaurant? And how can you just step further and do what other people are not willing or maybe even too scared to do? And the reason why I said this was perfect timing with Pic-Time is because I feel like in my own journey of becoming an unreasonable photographer, going further than anyone else is willing to go to create the most incredible experience for my own couples and also to create incredible photography for my couples, Pic-Time has been a huge partner in that. And so I've thought about 3 things that you can do right now to be a little bit more unreasonable in your own wedding photography business. The first thing is to be a servant. Now, I know that is a weird word choice, but it seems to make more sense when you think about a restaurant, right? Because people are coming to the restaurant to sit down, and what do you get? A server comes to your table, and they're serving you food, they're serving you drinks, whatever. And so it seems much more like reasonable to think that when you're at a restaurant, you get served. But I think the same idea is actually very powerful for other service-based industries like photography, for example. When you are there on a wedding day, you're not there for yourself. You're not there to puff yourself up, even though some people do approach wedding photography that way. But how I see it is I am there to serve the couple. I am there to make their experience the best, to make their wedding day the best. And part of that is also serving all of the vendors that they have chosen for their wedding or their planner has chosen for their wedding, whatever. They're at their wedding, which means I want to do whatever I can to make the couple's experience and to make everyone else's experience better. And using Pic-Time, I'm so glad that they've added this more recently, this vendor integration in their platform. So literally, if you have Pic-Time, you wouldn't be like all of these other wild other photographers that never sent this cake lady photos. It's totally insane to me. In Pic-Time, what you can do is add vendors information. So you can type it in on your own. You can even send the vendor an invitation and they can accept it. They can put their own information in. And then when you shoot the wedding, you can just send out all of these galleries to these vendors, which is, I'll explain why this is so brilliant and why it's crazy for you not to do this. But what's cool in Pic-Time is that they have this AI thing that will pull out all of the cake photos, all the florist photos. And then when you have that vendor registered, you can just send them all their galleries with all the photos that they actually need from the wedding day, which is very cool. And I think one other thing that is really great, and this is probably the issue around why photographers are a bit slow to share with other people or they don't want to share it with others, is usage terms, right? And this can be a very awkward conversation where you share photos with someone and be like, can you make sure that you actually tag these photos? You can't just be sharing them and not include that I took them, they're my photos. And what's really cool is when you do use that vendor kind of portal thing, you can have all of your photography terms. And so when the vendor, when the florist or the cake person gets it, they have to read the terms and say you must post it only here. You cannot sell this, whatever. You have to tag Cleveland Photographs. And then they have to accept that before they even get into the gallery. And so it doesn't create this weird dynamic where you have to talk to the vendor individually. And it makes this kind of formal, more professional way to be if you want to use these photos, this is what you have to do. Now, why is this brilliant? Why was I so shocked that photographers had not sent photos to that cake designer? And that's because it's free advertising. If I share my photos with a cake designer that has 300,000 followers, I'm sharing it with her and then she just posts it for free. And all of these people see my work, see my name and are like, oh wow, Luke's connected with that person. That's so crazy. That's awesome. And so I'm there to, yes, not only serve the couple, but also to serve the vendors. And in serving the vendors, in getting great photos of their work, sending it to them quickly, giving them lots of options, when I'm helping them, it actually is really great for me. And I get a lot of great advertising and everyone is very happy because they have incredible photos of their work. The second thing that I thought that could make you unreasonable as a photographer is to be the best, to have a unreasonable drive to be the best. One of the really cool opening stories in the book is where they're talking about they're at these awards for like, I won't try to spoil too much of the book, but like the awards for top for restaurants in the world or whatever. And they go there and I'll just say that they didn't get the result that they expected for. When I was reading it, I was like, they got, the certain award and I was like, oh, wow, that sounds awesome. They were like devastated. They were like, what? We have failed. And my kind of first thoughts when I was reading that was like, yeah, but you still did a pretty good job. Why would you not be happy with that? And what I was reminded of and what I loved reading about in the book was this insatiable desire to be the absolute best. And when you do that, it's not all about you it's not all about me just being the best. Everyone else benefits from being the best. When I try to be the absolute best wedding photographer in the world, then, well, my clients gain the benefit of that. They get the best photos. They get the best experience. And when I get the best photos and the best weddings, then I get to share it with you guys as well. And I get to create the best content as well. And so being just like have an unreasonable drive to be the absolute best photographer that you can be in the scenario that you have. Something that I do a bunch of one-on-one consultations, coaching calls with other photographers around the world. It's really cool. And honestly, I love doing it. But something that I often will say in these calls is treat every single wedding that you have like it's the top wedding, your dream wedding every time. Don't show up and just be like, oh, well, this is not the one that I imagine or hope to have, so I'm just gonna like, whatever, get it done. Every wedding that I show up to is like the top wedding of the century, because it's not about being the best when you need to be the best. It's about being the best every single day. So when you have that dream wedding, when you have the dream client or the dream planner or the dream cake designer or whatever, you're so used to being the best all the time that at that point, it's just a matter of habit. And how I'm going to tie Pic-Time in here is when I was rebranding, my own business with my wife, Allie, we just like looked through our business and was like, what is the best for us? And then how can we make changes in our business to reflect that? And one of the things which is super key in a photography business, is how I delivered my photos. Like I was kind of cheap, and the gallery that I had, I was like, oh, I'm using it because I could save some money here, but it wasn't that good. It wasn't that intuitive. It had issues, and it didn't look that like pretty. And as we were looking around, this is almost like 5 years ago. This is like in 2020. We were like, okay, what is the best gallery out there? And I'm gonna go get that one. And I came across Pic-Time. I was like, this is so beautiful. This is tying in to being the absolute best. This is going to give me the structure, give me the business and the background in order to present my photography in the absolute best way possible. The third thing, in order to be, the most unreasonable wedding photographer around, is to be attentive. Now, this is a big issue for me. And this has always been kind of an issue, even when I first started my business in 2013, was communication, staying on top of things, staying on top of emails, requests, texts, all of those things. I'm not that good at that. It's easy for me to forget about emails. It's easy for me to read an email and then be like, oh, I need to respond to that, and then forget to respond to it, or intend to, but just take a few extra days to do something. Anyways, I'm trying to get better at it, and I think I am getting better at it. But one thing that has helped me so much is Pic-Time's update to their mobile options. To be completely honest, their online platform before, like accessing Pic-Time on your phone, was kind of terrible. Like it wasn't like made for your phone. It was very hard to access. If somebody wanted to send their photos, I really needed to go to my computer in order to send it to them. Okay, not anymore. They have made an incredible mobile app where you can access the full functionality of Pic-Time on your phone, which is a big deal for someone like me who really needs to do, like, if somebody asks for their photos, like, I need to do it right away. Otherwise, I'm totally gonna forget and I'm not gonna do it. Or they're gonna have to ask again like a week later. And that is not good for my goal of being the unreasonable wedding photographer. And so if a client asks for a gallery or a vendor messages me and say, hey, Luke, can you send me some cake photos? And I'm like, no problem. Let me get on my phone. I'm going to send it right here. I literally did this on the way to a wedding a couple weeks ago where I had a request from a vendor and I was like on the way to a wedding. And I was like, oh yeah, let me do that right now because I'm going to be shooting a wedding all day and then I'm going to forget and then it's going to be next week. So whether it's a vendor or I don't know, somebody needs help with a photo order, or maybe you've even forgotten to post on Instagram, which I've been doing more and more of. I keep my wedding galleries on Pic-Time, even if they're not shared anymore with the client, for quite a while, because I like the ability to access my catalog without having my catalog. And so if we've forgotten to post for Instagram or we're away and we ran out of Instagram posts or whatever, I can just hop on the app and scroll through some weddings, choose a couple Instagram photos and post them. And what's even cooler is they've added the option where you can like post directly from the Pic-Time gallery, which is totally bananas and totally helps someone like me who has some issues with getting things done when they need to get done. Okay, so thanks to Pic-Time for sponsoring this video. Thank you for helping me be a little bit more unreasonable. And I hope you take some of these things and implement them into your own business to set you apart from everybody else. Because man, when I hear stories like this from this, cake designer, it makes me think like, I know it's easy for us to look on Instagram and be like, oh my goodness, there's all these people in the world doing these incredible things. Like it's so hard to compete. But I think if you really strive to care for your clients, to serve them, to be unreasonable, to do just like an extra step, I actually think you can really grow your business and you can really create a business that you're proud of and that people just like they want to hire you. And so anyways, as you can tell, I'm very amped about this subject and I haven't finished the book yet, but when I finish the book, I think I'm gonna do another follow-up video talking about more unreasonable things that you can implement in your own business to just like blow up your own business this year. And if there's any unreasonable things that you do in your business, I would love to hear about them in the comments. So let me know if you are being a little bit of an unreasonable wedding photographer yourself. Okay, bye.